Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of The Blacklist. A great season premiere, great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, this episode's about Roanoke. Roanoke is this person who's able to make people disappear. Obviously, Reddington is like, okay, so Roanoke's the one that was behind making Katerina disappear, because if he can find Roanoke, he can get closer to finding Katerina again. And obviously, at the same time, there's a whole thing about, like, Dom waking up, and now, Reddington has to fill him in about, it's like, oh yeah, everything Katerina's been up to. And also, Liz knows that I'm not Ilya, and now it's like, now she knows I lied to her. It's like, for him, it's like, I wanted a relationship with my granddaughter. They had one, but it's like, because he told her this, it led to this situation. Which also begs the question, why do that? Because even Reddington, when he found out, like, why would you tell her that? Why would you lie to her about that? It's like, because I think for him, he didn't want to admit all the skeletons in his closet, because it would mean admitting so much of stuff he did. So he wanted to make it seem like it was like this fairy tale ending by making it like, oh, Ilya is your dad and me and your mom were on good terms. It's like, no, like there was a lot more to it than that. Like, he spun this great tale, but even Reddington's like, you did that because he doesn't say that, but it's like, you did that to make yourself seem better. You wanted to give her some hope. Like, you would never be able to tell her everything, because for whatever reason, there are just things you cannot say. But like, you wanted to give her some closure. But in the end, by lying to her, you made things so much worse. You would have been better off from just avoiding the truth like Reddington did. I mean, granted, Reddington's way of doing things hasn't always worked out either, but still, it is this situation of like, well, now they're after Roanoke. Because obviously Liz is like, oh, that Trimmer is gone. It's like, but the underlying issue with you is still there. And he's like, let's not focus this on me. Let's focus on finding Roanoke. And so she obviously brings this to the team and everything. And it's like, all right, what's this whole Roanoke thing about? It's like, yeah, so made Maddie Tolliver disappear. It's like, oh, the woman that kidnapped Reddy? What's this all? Yeah, that was my mom. What? Wait, what? Everyone's like, wait, excuse this? Huh? Your mom? It's like, yeah. Obviously, Ressler already knows this, but now, like, Agent Park, and Cooper now, it's out there in the open with everybody. And then Rom's like, oh, so the lady that was living near you the entire time was actually... He's like, actually, it's kind of cool that you got to spend time with your mom. I mean, granted, she tried to, it went about trying to kill the people that were close to you. But, I mean, hey, Rom's trying to look at the silver line. It's like, you were able to spend time with your mom. Yeah. So, and even Ressler's like, why are you telling them? Like, what's this all about? Like, you coming... Like, once again, he was the only one that really knew the truth about everything, but for her to be out in the open. But it's a situation of the circumstances have changed, especially because she talks to her mom to figure out, like, what is this all about? And so it turns out that basically there's this folklore of N13, which is basically a Russian mole that has collected like 13 key like pieces of like evidence, or it was like 13 specific things, but basically that's what this like file that she's looking for is. It's basically what N13 started, but over the course of everything, like every agency around the world has basically had like heavy ass confidential information. It's basically the gold mine of blackmail on the international level of knowing dirty little secrets and information from like every government agency around. So that's like the purpose of it. And the thing is that Katerina is believed to be N13 because like when she was having that meeting with Ilya, her father lied and manipulated the situation to make it seem like she was N13, that she was this, mole with all this confidential information. And so the file that when she was going to meet Ilya, everyone thinks that's what she was going to do, to go exchange that. So her father put her in this situation. Ilya put herself in this, because even she's still like, I have no idea who Reddington is, but whoever he is, like, he's in league with them. Because it also like, she's thinking, because now it's like, wait, so is that who Reddington is? Is Reddington N13? It's like, or maybe my dad is, or maybe both of them. Like, she doesn't know, but she wants to get this file, because if she can get the file and prove that she isn't N13, she can clear her name. She won't have to be on the run forever anymore, because obviously, like, she already resents her dad a little bit too, because like in Russia it's about kind of like laying with your enemy is kind of the whole thing. And so for her, she was like, I was 15 years old when I was first kind of forced to kind of told to sleep with someone to gain information, and the person who gave that order was her own father. And it's like, of course you're going to resent your dad a little bit, but obviously it's like that's the way things work. But that's even more reason why she made it so that Liz grew up in the States, because it's like the world here doesn't, like, things don't work like that over here in the West like they did there, you know. So that's what it, you know. But obviously it's the whole conversation about like, well, Dom can't be trusted. Obviously, Reddington can't be trusted because, you know, he let himself believe, he let you, like, it's just, he continues to manipulate you is kind of the whole point she's making about him pretending to be your father or this father figure. All he's doing is stringing you along, because she's saying if he's in 13, by giving you the blacklisters, he's giving himself access to like high government officials and government secrets. So saying that this is all a ploy, his whole Reddington act is a ploy to get some information and add it to the file. If he's in N13, I don't think he is. But maybe, I don't know, at the very least, maybe they know who N13 is. Because now the question is like, once again, it's been the biggest secret of all, like, why Reddington has always done this. Because he's always made it pretty clear everything he's ever really done has always been about protecting Liz. I mean, and it's also the thing of like, oh, he lied about being my father and everything. It's like, and she's thinking back on it, and she asked him, like, are you my father? And he said, no. He never claimed to be her father. But the thing is, Reddington never corrected it. When it was like, oh, you're my dad, he couldn't tell her, no, I'm not Ilya, because it would contradict everything Dom said, and Dom put him in a very compromising position. I never claimed to be your dad. You would have never thought I was your dad. Obviously, stuff early on in his show made her think he might have been her dad, but it's like, no, I'm not your dad. And so for him, it's like, I've never lied to you. I never once lied to you. And but then Dom put me in a position where it's like, oh, you're Ilya. He's Ilya. And it's like, I can't like tell it's a lie, because that's just going to complicate things more. So it's that whole situation of like, I believe Reddington when he says he's never lied to Liz. It's like, I've never told you everything, but I have never lied to you, you know? But for Liz, it's like, it's still the same thing. So now it's also the conversation of like, now that now that Katerina's known to be like, oh my God, this is about your mom and everything, then it's like, you know, Cooper's asking, do we have your loyalty? Like, we can't ask you to, it's not about Reddington, it's not about her. It's like, your loyalty to us. And she's like, yeah, I'm loyal to you guys. But even I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, you've chosen your mom's side. Like, the season 7 finale made that pretty damn clear. But I'm like, you know, but even she admits, she's like, I can't trust my mom. Like, because she remembers what Reddington said. She's like, oh, so you wouldn't lie? And he's like, oh, I'm a criminal. You never trust a criminal. And it's like, regardless of anything, what is her mom? Her mom was a, you know, KGB operative, yeah, who's also been on a run, doing whatever she needs to survive. So you're going to lie and twist and manipulate whoever you can and need to get whatever, to, you know, your own survival. I mean, she's not above manipulating you. What was she doing? Pretending to be someone else. She never came out, you know, so it's not like she's any better than Reddington, but at least she's willing to speak the truth now. But even then, it's like, what is the truth, you know? Because she gives you stuff here and there, and it's like, this is the full picture of everything, but maybe, you know, there's probably things even Katerina doesn't know. Because once again, I mean, that's the whole reason why she's doing this, because she wants to know the truth. You know, a truth that only Dom and Reddington and Ilya, you know, and even Denbei, only those 4 people know everything, at least most of everything, like what she needs to know and what, you know, what Liz needs to know. So now it's a situation of, it's like, all right, I'm getting Roanoke to kidnap your grandfather, but I'm using this as a ploy because now it's a situation of like, once it gets to Reddington, he'll move Dom, and then when he moves Dom, we'll strike dead. But it's like, the FBI never found the photo. She did. And even Katerina's like, it's up to you then. My fate is in your, you know, so now Liz is once again in that complicated situation of, you know, like now is she willing to betray the FBI in order to protect her mom? This is her mom we're talking about here, you know, so those familial ties and everything. It's a complicated family situation. Because I even love it when she presents it to them. It's like, wait, going after your grandfather? Wait, she'd go after her own father? And her mom's like, it's complicated. But it's a long story. So now it is a situation of trying to, you know, figure this whole thing out. Because obviously Liz has a conversation with Dom about the whole situation, about like him being like, I was in an impossible situation. And that's the question, like, why would he go through so far? Why would he lie about the Ilya thing? Why would he betray his own daughter? Like, that's the $1,000,000 question. What is this secret that's so big you're willing to burn everything to keep it? That so many people are willing to keep it, or are not willing to tell Liz. Why it's so dangerous to tell Liz or Katerina, like, what is this information? That's going to be probably like the big question this season, obviously. I mean, it's been the big question before now, but I think even more so with the current circumstances, you know? I skipped over it too, but there's also that story Reddington told about, like, oh, he had a meeting with someone, the whole taxi situation, and him being across from that cat that was in like the 4 lanes or whatever, and he's like, the cat was like screaming, but then it closed its mouth and it was looking at me, and he's like, it stared at me like it knew me, and he was like, you know, it was coming towards me, and I was about to get out the cab, but then the cab took off, ran over the cat. And it's like, oh, that's a depressing ass story. I figured it was going to go down that route because it was in the middle of the road, but I was like, oh, for it to be the taxi you ran. For him, it's because he was trying to rush to meet with his pal, like, because it's like, oh, like every 15 minutes, home dude's going to be knocking down back a gin and tonic. But then, like, yeah, Reddington got there. The dude was a little drunk, angry, but fine altogether. So for him, it's like, it was almost like you were rushing here for nothing, you know? And so it's like, what, you know, because he was looking for Roanoke, and the guy was like, what do you want? And he told that story, and he's like, what I want that cat, and I want Roanoke. And then the other one's like, I want Roanoke and that cat. So it's like, in that metaphor, you know, because I'm a complete and utter idiot, who's the cat in that situation? Like, is the cat supposed to be Katerina? Is the cat supposed to be everything that, like, I guess it's supposed to represent maybe, like, everything, what he really, really wants. It's like, you know, what he desires most, I guess, would kind of be a way of kind of potentially looking at him. You know, it's actually kind of interesting. I'm blanking on her. I see her name every time, but I keep blanking on it. The actress who plays Katerina. It's so crazy because obviously, like, she's in, like, obviously the most recent thing I've seen her in, because it's been fairly recent, with The Boys. So it's just so neat to kind of see it, because it's like, oh, just seeing her back to back like that is kind of crazy. Especially considering, like, she's on 2 different sides of the law in both, you know, she's kind of like a KGB agent. I mean, kind of similar things, because she worked with the CIA and on The Boys, so it's like almost the same field, just different countries, you know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But she's on more so the criminal side of things, and kind of more the good guy side of things in The Boys. But at the same time, it's like, maybe she is technically she's just a normal person that, yeah, she might have been a Russian spy, but it's like she was just any other person put in her position. She's just doing what she can to survive. She's just a lady, you know, who had to sacrifice so much to, you know, survive. So, but obviously, when the time came, though, like, before everything, she was asking him, it's like, you know, she wanted to, Liz confronted Reddington again about everything, but he didn't give her an answer. It's like, oh, you know, basically referencing, like, oh, yeah, Dom went through a lot of stuff. And she's like, once again, there's another non-answer. He's like, I've given you my answer. He's like, I've always given you the answers. He's like, there are things that are mine and no one else's. Like, I've told you what you needed to know. Anything else I've kept isn't for you to know. It is mine and mine alone. And it's like, because everyone's entitled to something that's theirs. But it's like, for Liz, it's like, it impacts me. It impacts my mother's life. It affects so many people's lives. So you can't tell me that it, you know, because it's like, yeah, Sam, my father, the man that I grew up believing to be my father, who raised me like I was his, you killed him. Tom ended up dying because of your secrets, you know, obviously, as Katerina tries to put it, you know. So, obviously, I even love that situation where that guy was, I guess he's like, you know, he's with them and everything. So it's like, hey, one of the agents is looking at, he's like, oh, don't look at me like that. He's like, I don't bite. And Reddington's like, unless you know, betray me or something like that. And he was basically then like, I'll gut you and feed you to, like, the fish. I forgot what he was saying. He was basically saying, like, I'd kill you, gut you, and feed you to something. And then Russ was like, great pep talk, you know? It's like, why'd you doing that? Yeah, the guy's staring you down, but I just, like, you didn't have to be all menacing, Reddington. But obviously, like, for a little bit, the whole thing didn't sit well with Reddington, because it's like, the Roanoke's whole thing is, using someone as an insider. So for him, it's like, and Dembe was like, oh, so do you think it's some of our people? He's like, no, they know what the consequences are for betrayal, so they'd never do it. But he's like, it still made him uneasy. Because at the same time, Hetty's, and looking for the actual Roanoke, because obviously they believe him to be behind this. But obviously there was also this line from Katarina where, like, the guy that works for Roanoke is like, hey, how'd you convince her to wear a wire? It's like, she's desperate for her mom's approval, that familial, and that line to me, it sounded so, it's like, oh, so you admit that you're manipulating your daughter. I mean, because that's why I'm like, you're not above using your daughter, because it's like, yeah, this is your daughter, but a lot of those familial ties, like, how much have they been severed? Because, that's what because obviously we saw what she did to someone like Ilya. To be fair, Ilya betrayed her, and she spent so many years away from her daughter. So it's like, you're willing to use Liz to get what you need, but at the same time, it is the thing I think of, you do care about her, so you're thinking probably when this is all said and done, I don't know what she expects her to be like, some like happily ever after, that once she's cleared her name, it's like, but once again, maybe Liz is just a means to an end, that, if I have to cast you aside to clear my name, then so be it. But it's like, no, hopefully everything works out where I don't know what Katarina expects from the ending of this, like whether she thinks it is going to be a happily ever after type of story. But obviously for Liz, she's upset because it's just like lie after lie after lie. Like everyone in her life has ever lied to her, being like, oh, it's been for your sake. And she's like, if another person tells me that, So when it's all said and done, though, Liz made a choice I didn't quite see. Like, I knew she was going to be, I thought there was going to be a little more cat and mouse to this whole, like, her saying, like, I'm loyal to the FBI while secretly working with with Katarina. I mean, her loyalty was basically split three ways, but I mean, to be fair, she made it pretty, it made it seem more like she only had two choices last episode, in the season finale. It made it seem like she only had two choices. It was either Katarina's side or Reddington's side. But I guess siding with the FBI would also be, in a way, siding with Reddington to a certain extent, because it's almost a package deal while also not. So she's really split between three different lanes. But when it all comes down to it, she ended up choosing, obviously, her mom's side, because it turns out this whole Roanoke thing was a bluff from the beginning. It was a lie, because the real Roanoke is just some retired dude. Like, he's got, like, dementia, so he's not the one orchestrating everything. She used his MO to make Reddington think that, so, like, it's been a long con. And obviously, because the moment she did what she did, it's like, oh, dude, because, like, it's not only did you screw over Reddington, you burned the bridges with the FBI. You betrayed everyone. And so now it's like, it's a complicated thing. It puts the FBI in a complicated position, because obviously they care about her, because even Park, because I'm sure, like, Liz is the first person she confided in about her secret, and also Liz was there to kind of help her through, like, so, like, obviously she's got her demons, and she recognizes, like, Liz, because it's like Liz and her mom don't need jail, they need a family therapist, But when it's all said and done, there's that conversation between Cooper and Reddington, and I thought was so dope. It's like, I always love the conversation between, because these are the two father figures, the two mentors in her life that care about her deeply. But now it's a situation, because, like, for Cooper, it's like, you're the reason why, like, yeah, I don't even recognize Liz anymore. 7 years ago, before you came into her life, she was a kind person and everything. It's basically because of your influence. Because for him, it's like, for Reddington, it's like, I took her under my wing, I taught her so much, but it's like, because of your tutelage, like, when she comes back, like, we're going to do it. We're going after her because we care about her, not just because you want us to go after her. Like, we care about Liz, and it's like, we're not going to have her back under your tutelage. She crossed the line by doing what she did, but it's like, we won't need your help when it's all said and done. He's like, oh, you might not want it, but my help will be a necessity for this. And I thought it was so interesting, because he's like, Reddington's like, you might not like it, but we both see what this whole situation with Liz, we know what it is. You might just not want to accept it, but this is destiny. And so that right there is like almost like saying, like, Liz being who she is right now is inevitable, because I guess because of what's in her DNA, who she is at her core. Like, Reddington, his whole thing was about trying to teach her, because there was a whole thing last season about he wanted to basically give his entire empire to her. She was like, you want me to have it? It's like, yeah, because he wanted her to take it, because despite him being kind of the villain that he is, like, I always put Reddington more as an anti-hero. He's a complicated thing. But I think Reddington, yeah, he tiptoes in that dark, like, he goes down the dark lane, but I think more so than anything, Reddington lives in the gray. he's willing to do whatever he needs to, but I think Reddington does have his, he does have his code. He does have his own ethics. He might be a criminal, but when you say a criminal with a heart of gold, you kind of want to say Reddington's that, but at the same time, no. But I think for him, he wants Liz to go down that path of gray. He wants her to be in that in-between lane, walking that twilight between light and darkness. That's kind of how I interpret that. And so for me, it's like him worried that, that was his concern last season, that she might go full dark side. He doesn't want her to go down the full dark lane. I think he wants her to walk in that lane of gray, that twilight, that dusk, whatever you want to call it, that in-between lane, I think, is more so than anything. And then Cooper's like, I'm sorry, I can't see you out. He's like, oh, don't be cheeky, Harold. You've never seen me out, But now it's like, obviously, like I said, everyone has their reservations. Like, wrestlers like, maybe we can, her grandfather was a, liar, a spy. It's like, yeah, but we don't get to pick and choose. Like, she committed a crime. Yeah, he's a bad guy, but we have to follow the letter of the law. Yes, we're all upset by this. Because even Aram's like, I get why we have to do our job. But he's like, on a personal level, that just feels wrong. And Harold's like, but we still have a job to do. So put out, and it's like, this is interesting because this is the second time this has ever happened in Liz's life. Remember when she was on the run at the end of season 2 and a good chunk of season 3 when she was on the run with Reddington? It's so interesting how that's come full circle in its own right, because obviously, now she's on the run potentially with her mom, not potentially, definitely with her mom, so it's interesting how that works out. There's even that moment with Wrestler and her I thought was so fascinating, because for her, it's like, I just need to get the truth, it's like, but it's just a thing of like, you betrayed us. It's not just Reddington. You betrayed us. Like the only group of people that would be on your side throughout all this. The thing is, because she's like, yeah, this, our complicated thing. Like, you killed the guy that killed your dad. And it's like, I get it. It's like, we kind of go a little crazy when it comes to familial stuff. But he's like, I had no one to turn. I was 15. I had no one to turn to. You had us. You could have turned to us at any point in time. He's like, so come back with us. And then Liz is like, I just need you to keep believing in me. Just trust me. Just give me the time necessary to find out what Dom knows. Figure this whole thing out. But then, like, she kisses him, which immediately my brain was like, oh, that's sweet, about time. But at the same time, I was immediately like, there's a dark side to that, because it's like, that's very manipulative. That's almost like a very, like, spy thing to do, to manipulate someone, because you can pull on his heartstrings. But he was like, I have a job to do. And she's like, takes his gun from him, because for her, it's like, when we started out, you didn't trust me. And she's like, I'm sad to see that we're back there again. It's like, he has a job it's not that he doesn't trust you. He's trying to stop. In his mind, it's like, I'm trying to stop you before you go too far. I mean, hell, even during the situation when you were wanted, he would hunt you down, but he still went about it a certain way, because he still did care about you. That was, like, this has been a long time coming, like, their dynamic, their relationship being what it is, but it's like, it's there, and I'm sure that makes it even more heartbreaking, because it's like, oh, you don't trust me, but it's like, you put me in a position where, like, how am I supposed to trust you? Because you don't even know who to really trust, because you don't even 100% trust your mom. You chose her side, but you don't 100% trust her. You don't trust Reddington anymore, especially now that you burnt that bridge. So obviously for Liz, it hits her hard, because it's like, I sacrificed everything. Like, the only friend, she says friends, it's like, that's the only family you have, and you sacrificed that. And it's like, she's kind of out, much like her mom, she's out there in the cold like her mom is, in a metaphorical spy sense. But it's like, all right, she's like, we're not going to hurt Dom. And it's like, oh, well, we're just going to get answers. It's like, well, how do you plan on doing that? It's like, you're going to get those answers. Like, he's probably going to be a lot more forthcoming to Liz than he is Katarina. But once again, it's been decades of keeping this secret. Regardless of everything, like, he has his reasons, but he's still not willing to break that, like, So it's like, so much here that I'm so curious to find out. And obviously for Reddington too, it's like, basically Reddington takes the blame himself, but like Dembe's like, no, she left us. He's like, no, she left me. This is on me. And it's like, Dembe even being like, we knew this was a possibility. It's like, yeah, we always knew it was one. We didn't want it to go down this route, but we always knew this was a possibility. And he's like, even despite knowing it was a possibility, I still ended up letting it happen. Reddington feeling like he failed to stop this from happening. So it's like, where things kind of go from here, because obviously Reddington is not going to be working with the FBI. because obviously they're cutting ties with him for now when it comes to this whole Liz situation. So he's going to be working on his own. They're going to be working on their own. It's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be any future correlations with like the Blacklist and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of complicated, just a complicated situation in general. Makes you wonder, will it all end up being worth it in the end? It's actually interesting when you actually think about it, because like obviously because last season was cut short because of the pandemic and everything, so they had to make a makeshift season finale, because obviously episode 19 wasn't originally how they wanted it to end. But obviously this season's kind of continuing on from that, so I don't know. I'm curious. I would assume they've continued. Like, I'm sure, like, they took all the storylines they had written originally for the rest of season 7 and had them at the top, like this, and the rest of, like, probably the next couple episodes might be like the where the rest of season 7 was originally going to go. Because I was curious. I was wondering, did they potentially scrap anything? When they made their season finale, did they scrap anything? I think it's them still continuing what they had originally had already planned and set up. So it's going to be interesting, because like this is actually where the season 7 was going to. So we're going to get up to a point where I'm curious to see how they shift what would have, once again, I haven't read too much about it, but I'm curious, like, because I'd assume it would have been like 20 some episodes, because most seasons of the Blacklist are like 20 some episodes. So I would assume like, ain't it like 22 or 23 is usually the number. So there's at least like 2 or 3 more episodes after this that would have been in the original. But I'm curious, like, what was originally supposed to be the the original season 7 finale, like, how are they going to rework it so that it's like, maybe it could still end on the same point, but it'll probably end up, will it still kind of feel like a season finale even though it's like still early in the season? Or, have they reworked it to make it feel like flow more into like, oh, we're going straight into like, because this episode feels like it is just kind of like oh no, we're not just like, it's going from one season. It's like, it feels like it picks up right after like the last episode. It definitely feels like a season 7 episode, but that could just be me, reading too much and thinking too much about it. It's not really worth thinking about, but it's just kind of interesting. A lot of shows are going to have to pivot like this, with their new seasons and everything, because a lot of stuff had their, previous seasons cut short. Not everything, but quite a few things. But regardless, tangents and all that, I'm excited to have the Blacklist back. I'm so excited to see where this season takes us, where the next episode, in fact, takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.